but it's called John Hicks' house. Any ideas who lives there? Yeah, it was John Hicks. Very good. He was the first one. It's built for him in 1762. He is one of two confirmed Cantabrigians at the Boston Tea Party. Pretty good stuff, right? Now, why do I say Cantabrigian? It's because in Latin, we are not called Cambridge. Any idea what we're called in Latin? If we are Cantabrigians, maybe we're called Cantabrigians. Yeah, very good. So Cantabrigians, we call this place in Latin. So we're Cantabrigians here. He is one of the two at the Boston Tea Party. That's no small feat, considering to get to Boston in those days, you have to go all the way across what's called the Great Bridge, built in 1662. It goes all the way over the Charles River, through the mud flats of Brookline, then you go through Brookline, then you go through Roxbury, then you pop up the Boston Neck into Boston. It's 8 miles just to the city limits, it's 10 miles to get to the harbor. It's a long way for a 48-year-old guy to go in 1773. And 48 in those days, for the record, a little more like 80 these days. Yeah, you're going to die soon, really what it means, right? But 2 years later, when William Dawes and Paul Revere start running through the countryside, warning people the war's about to start, the British are coming, right? William Dawes, the reason he's not quite as famous as Paul Revere is he doesn't tell all the right people. And so John Hicks, unfortunately, sleeps through the warning that they're coming, wakes up the next day, discovers that whatever had happened in Lexington has happened. He says, they're firing on redcoats in Lexington? I missed it. He gets really upset by this. So he gets together a couple of his buddies. Moses Richardson and Isaac Gardner are the most notables, right? These three 50-year-old men, I've always found it a little bit funny that Moses, Isaac, and John wander on up to North Cambridge. They hide behind some barrels in Watson's Corner, and they wait for the 1,500 redcoats to come retreating back from Lexington. They're waiting in creative ways, right? So by the time the redcoats finally come through, these three 50-year-old guys pop up, they fire. Now, a really good soldier in those days can reload his musket about 3 times per minute. It takes at least 20 seconds. So, 3 drunk 50-year-olds shooting at 1,500 redcoats. You can probably imagine how that ended that day. His wife doesn't know what happened to him, so he sends their son up to Watson's Corner, where he finds his dad with a bullet through his heart and a smile on his face. He died the way he wanted to, right? So John Hicks' house was almost immediately confiscated by the Continental Army. They come in here after the retreat from the British, and they lay siege to Boston by laying themselves out in the Cambridge Commons. Israel Putnam decides to make this house his office. And if you've never heard about Israel Putnam, you should definitely do some reading. This guy is, if you'll pardon my language, kind of a badass. Even as a farmer, as a young man. He's 19 years old. He's got 400 sheep in his flock. 90 of them go missing over the course of a year due to wolves. So he gets his buddies together. He says, let's go wolf hunting. They hunt all of the wolves out of central Connecticut until they're down to one pack, the she-wolf and her cubs. They kill all the cubs. They set bear traps for the she-wolf. It's really clever. She actually gets caught in one, chews her arm off, gets out of it, right? Makes it very easy to track, though. So they track her to a cave where there's a tiny little opening. They decide, all right, nobody's going in there after the wolf, so let's just do this. We'll wait here for 2 weeks. She'll get hungry. She'll have to come out eventually. Israel Putnam says, I don't have that kind of time. Tie a rope around my ankle. If I yell, pull me out as fast as you can. They lower him down into the cave with a torch. He looks around from the outside. The rope goes taut. They don't know what's happening, but they hear the torch drop. They hear a gnashing of teeth. They hear a firing off of a pistol, and they yank as hard as they can. Israel Putnam's got the thing by the ears. He throws it on the ground. He says, let's go home. I mean, this is the kind of guy he is, right? His military career starts in the French and Indian Wars. He's surrounded one day by a bunch of Indians, and rather than get captured by them and take his chances, he decides to salute them and launch himself into the Hudson River, goes flying down the Whitewater. The Indians have no desire to commit suicide, so they don't go in after him. He survives this, but they remember his face. And the next time they capture him, they tie him to an oak tree. They decide to burn him alive so he won't get away this time. They start lighting the fire. Just as it gets going, it starts to rain. I'm not even kidding. Puts the fire out. They can't get it stoked back up for a little while, but when they finally do, it really gets going. He's about to die. He's made his last prayers. He's wriggling. He's got a little bit of burning going on, and suddenly a French officer walks up and kicks all the fire sticks out from under him and says, so you know who this guy is? We can train a lot of prisoners for him, and we don't act like savages around here, and he's saved that way as well. Prisoner exchange. 1779, he's in the Revolution. He's got what's called the famous horse neck escape. There's 1,500 redcoats coming up a hill. Israel Putnam is shaving. He sees in the mirror these redcoats, drops the mirror, jumps on his horse, doesn't look back, blasts off to his 150 men, says, there's 1,500 of them, go hide in those swamps, I'm going for reinforcements. Blasts off past the dragoons to give chase, of course. The patriot riding by with lather still on his face. They fly back. They're catching up to him. He's got 2 options. He's about to come around the bend where he can either slow down to make the bend, which will probably get him captured, or he can go straight over the precipice, which is a very, very steep cliff with some stairs down there. And being Israel Putnam, of course, he chooses option B. He goes flying over this precipice. British, of course, pull up because, again, they're not willing to commit suicide to go after him. He's, going nearly vertical as he goes down. They pull out their pistols, they start firing at him, and any normal human being at this point would put his head down and pray to God that he stayed on his horse. That's not Israel Putnam, though. He pulls out his sword, he starts waving it back at the British and screaming obscenities at them. A bullet goes right through the brim of his cap, but he survives that. I mean, he's just a really remarkable guy. Finally, a stroke will actually end his career at 1779, but not until 1790 did he die happily as an old man on his farm. His nickname is Old Put. They also call him the American Cincinnati. I cannot say enough stuff about this guy. I've given you only the tip of the iceberg, so if you're curious, you should go look him up. But in the meantime, nobody comes on a tour of favorites just to see the Revolutionary Spirit and stuff. You want to see some Harvard, so we haven't hit that stuff yet. So at this point, we'll wander on into the river residences.